When we talk about intimacy, one of the biggest mistakes couples make is falling into a rhythm that feels safe but eventually turns into routine. In the beginning, there's excitement, curiosity, and a desire to experiment, but as time goes on, many relationships fall into a cycle where the same few moves are repeated over and over. Men might not always vocalize it directly, but inside, they crave variety. They crave something that feels fresh, something that jolts them out of autopilot. And here's the truth most women don't realize. When a man gets predictable experiences, no matter how enjoyable, his desire naturally begins to drift toward the idea of what could be new, not necessarily someone new. That distinction matters because it's not about him not loving or appreciating you. It's about the basic human craving for novelty. You've probably noticed that men often joke or drop hints about wanting to try something different, but many times those hints are brushed off as playful exaggerations. The problem is that behind the joke, there's usually a real wish, a real hunger for variety. Think about it, men thrive on challenges, on discovering something unexpected, on feeling like there's more to explore even in a familiar relationship. And yet, in so many bedrooms, predictability reigns supreme. It's not that the existing intimacy is bad, but when it becomes too familiar, it loses that spark of discovery. Now, why does this happen? Because routine feels comfortable. Women especially can sometimes fear stepping into the unknown, worrying whether they'll look silly, whether they'll be judged, or whether the attempt at something new will fail. But men aren't looking for perfection. They're not grading form or execution like some competition. What excites them is the effort, the willingness to try, the feeling that their partner is adventurous enough to break the script. When a woman chooses to step outside the usual, even just once in a while, she taps into one of the deepest male desires, the need to be surprised. Think about how men react in other areas of life. The reason men love sports, video games, or challenges is because the outcome is uncertain. They don't know exactly what's going to happen, and that uncertainty fuels excitement. The same principle applies in intimacy. If he knows exactly what's going to happen every single time, even if it's good, the lack of surprise slowly numbs the thrill. On the other hand, when something unexpected happens, even something small, it sends a signal to his brain. This is exciting, this is new, this is worth remembering. What's powerful is that unpredictability doesn't always mean wild or extreme changes. Sometimes it's the simplest shift that makes the biggest difference. A different approach, a sudden switch, a new angle. All of it communicates a message. I'm not afraid to keep this alive. I'm not afraid to keep you on your toes. Men feel wanted when women dare to break predictability, and in that moment, their attraction skyrockets. It's also worth mentioning that predictability isn't just about physical actions. It's about energy. If your energy feels rehearsed, if it feels like you're just going through the motions, men pick up on it instantly. But when your energy carries a spark of curiosity and daring, it changes everything. He feels like he's with someone who's not just physically present, but fully engaged. That emotional shift is what turns a simple act into an unforgettable memory. So when men beg for positions they rarely get, what they're really saying is, don't let this become predictable. Don't let us get trapped in routine. Give me variety. Not because I need perfection, but because I want to keep feeling that sense of discovery with you. Variety is the antidote to predictability, and the willingness to try something new is often far more powerful than the act itself. If there's one thing that makes a man's pulse race faster than anything else, it's confidence. Not the kind of confidence that needs to be shouted out loud or put on display for the world, but that quiet, magnetic energy a woman carries when she knows she's enough. Confidence in intimacy has nothing to do with how flexible you are or how perfectly you can pull off some complicated move. It has everything to do with the way you show up. Men crave positions where a woman takes charge, not because the position itself is magical, but because of what it communicates. It tells him, I'm not afraid to lead. I'm not afraid to be bold. I'm not afraid to own my desire. That kind of energy doesn't just turn him on physically. It captivates him on a psychological level. Most women underestimate just how much men long for that shift in dynamic. In everyday life, men are expected to lead, to plan, to take initiative. And yes, they'll do it, but inside, many are silently begging for a moment when the roles reverse, when their partner decides to step into power and say, "This time, I'm in control." It's not about dominance for dominance's sake. It's about showing him that he can let go, that he can surrender, and that his partner is confident enough to carry that space. That is rare, and because it's rare, it's intoxicating. The hesitation often comes from self-doubt. A woman might think, what if I don't look sexy? What if I mess this up? What if he laughs? But here's the truth. Men aren't sitting there with a checklist critiquing your every move. They're not focused on technical precision. What thrills them is the way you own it. Even if you're not entirely sure what you're doing, the confidence to try to hold eye contact, to guide his body, to make a bold move. That is what sticks in his mind. It's not the move, it's the energy behind the move. Imagine it like dancing. You don't need to be a professional dancer to captivate someone on the dance floor. What captures attention is the passion, the rhythm, the confidence in your movements. The same applies in intimacy. Men beg for positions where they feel you're not waiting for permission, where you're not timid or hesitant, but where you lean into your own desire and take charge. It's about saying, I want this, and I'm going to show you. That expression of confidence is irresistible because it combines vulnerability with power. There's also a deeper layer here. When a woman shows confidence in intimacy, it reassures a man in ways he won't admit out loud. It tells him that she's not just there for him, but she's present for herself too. That she enjoys, she desires, she craves. For men, that is incredibly validating. They don't just want to feel like they're the only ones driving the experience. They want to feel like their partner is fully engaged, fully alive, and unafraid to express it. That kind of confidence creates a loop of attraction. The more confident she is, the more desired he feels. And the more desired he feels, the more he desires her. Think about the moments in life when someone's confidence has stopped you in your tracks. It could be the way someone walks into a room, the way they hold themselves, the way they speak without second guessing. That presence lingers with you. Now, apply that same principle to intimacy. When a man experiences his partner stepping into confidence, trying something bold without hesitation, it doesn't just light him up in the moment, it stays with him. It becomes the story he replays in his head long after. Confidence doesn't require perfection. It requires willingness. Willingness to take charge, willingness to silence the inner critic, willingness to let go of control over how you should look or what you should do. The very act of showing confidence is enough to electrify the experience. And when you combine confidence with variety, the surprise of doing something unexpected, you create a powerful formula that keeps intimacy alive and thriving. One of the things men rarely say out loud, but almost all of them feel deep down, is how much they crave surprise. The element of the unexpected has a way of sparking adrenaline, and in intimacy, that adrenaline translates directly into excitement and desire. When everything unfolds in a predictable order, no matter how satisfying, it eventually becomes a script, one he knows by heart. But when something catches him off guard, when a move comes out of nowhere, it lights up his senses in a way that routine never could. That's why men fantasize so often about positions or moments that break the pattern. It's not just the physical angle of the position itself, it's the fact that it arrives unexpectedly, almost like a sudden plot twist in a story he thought he knew. Surprise is one of the most underestimated ingredients in passion. Think about it outside the bedroom for a moment. When someone plans an unexpected date, sends an unprompted message, or suddenly pulls you in for a kiss. It ignites feelings that feel far more powerful than something planned. It's the same principle here. Men are wired to respond to novelty, to the unknown, to moments that jolt them out of predictability. When a woman flips the script mid-moment, when she suddenly switches position or guides him somewhere he wasn't expecting, she's giving him that rush of adrenaline that keeps him hooked, engaged, and deeply present. This doesn't mean you need to transform into someone completely different or reinvent intimacy every time. Often, the power of surprise lies in small, subtle shifts. It could be the way you change direction without warning, the way you shift into a position he didn't think you'd try, or even the way you hold eye contact while doing something unexpected. That shock factor, even if tiny, rewires his brain in that moment to say, "Wow, I didn't see that coming." And because he didn't anticipate it, it becomes 10 times more memorable. Men secretly beg for these moments because they can't create them alone. Surprise requires both partners. He may fantasize about you suddenly taking control, about you shifting into a position that feels daring or adventurous, but unless you choose to create that surprise, it stays just that, a fantasy. And when you do it, when you deliver the unexpected, he doesn't just feel excitement, he feels gratitude. Gratitude that you're willing to step into his world of imagination and turn it into reality. It's worth noticing too, that surprise isn't just about physical novelty. It's also about emotional unpredictability. When you suddenly become bolder, when you laugh in the middle of trying something new, when you show a side of yourself he hasn't seen before, it creates emotional surprise. Men love those moments because they reveal new layers of who you are. And every time you reveal something new, it's like he gets to discover you all over again. That discovery is intoxicating because it reminds him that the woman he's with isn't one-dimensional. She's endlessly layered. The beauty of surprise is that it keeps both people present. When he doesn't know what's coming next, his attention sharpens. He's not drifting. He's not replaying the same old sequence. He's locked into you, into the moment, because he doesn't want to miss what might happen next. That's the gift of unpredictability. It commands presence, and presence is where intimacy feels most alive. So, when men beg for positions that rarely happen, it's not only about variety or confidence, it's about that thrill of unpredictability. It's about giving him something to remember, a moment that makes him think afterward. I didn't see that coming, and I can't wait to see what happens next. And when you bring that kind of surprise into your connection, you're not just meeting his physical desires, you're awakening his deepest craving to feel excited, challenged, and completely captivated by you. There's something men secretly crave but rarely voice directly, and that is the experience of role reversal. For so much of their lives, men are conditioned to lead, to take control, to initiate. In relationships, this expectation often spills into intimacy as well, where they feel responsible for being the driver, the one who sets the tone, the one who ensures everything keeps moving forward. And while men may gladly embrace that role most of the time, what many women don't realize is that deep down, men are begging for moments where the roles flip, where she takes control, where she decides what happens next, where he gets to surrender instead of constantly steering. It's not about him wanting to feel weak or less masculine. In fact, it's the opposite. When a woman dares to take charge, it shows strength, boldness, and confidence in a way that magnifies her allure. Men are wired to admire strength, and when that strength shows up in intimacy, it's electrifying. Think about how often men fantasize about a woman taking command, not because they want to give up control forever, but because those moments allow them to feel a different side of connection. It's a relief to not always be the one expected to lead. It's liberating to know that his partner is not just capable of following, but also willing to guide. So why doesn't this happen more often? Why do men beg silently instead of seeing it unfold in reality? The answer usually lies in hesitation. Women often underestimate how much power they have in these moments, and many hold back because of self-consciousness or fear of judgment. There's this lingering thought, what if I look awkward? What if he doesn't like it? What if I seem too aggressive? But the truth is, men are not looking for flawless choreography. They're not watching for mistakes. They're experiencing the thrill of being led, the rush of seeing a woman they desire suddenly step into dominance. Even if it's imperfect, even if it's messy, it's that very act of reversal that makes it unforgettable. When a woman chooses to try a role reversal position, she's not just adding variety, she's sending a powerful psychological signal. She's saying, I am not afraid to step into my power. I am not afraid to guide you. I am not afraid to be bold. That confidence translates far beyond the physical moment. It lingers with him afterward. He doesn't just remember the position. He remembers the way she made him feel, desired, overwhelmed, captivated. And here's the hidden layer. Role reversal also deepens trust. For a man to allow himself to surrender, even temporarily, he needs to feel safe. When his partner takes control with confidence, it reassures him that he can let go without losing respect or attraction. In fact, he gains even more respect because he sees her not just as a partner, but as someone who dares to own her space unapologetically. That deepens intimacy in ways that predictable, one-sided dynamics never can. Men may never directly say, I want you to take charge tonight, because pride often holds them back from voicing that vulnerability. But if you look closely, you'll see it in the hints they drop, in the way they light up when you make the smallest unexpected move of control, in the gratitude in their eyes when you choose not to wait for direction. They crave those moments more than they'll admit. So, when men beg for positions that rarely get tried, a big part of what they're longing for those role reversal experiences. They're not asking for perfection, they're asking for the thrill of you stepping up, guiding them, surprising them by doing what they didn't think you would. In those moments, the balance shifts, the energy flips, and both of you get to experience each other in a completely new way. And that is what keeps intimacy alive, not just the physical act itself, but the boldness, the confidence, and the trust it reveals. When you peel back the surface of what men desire, you quickly realize that it's not only about variety or control, it's also about the hidden fantasies that live quietly in the background of their minds. Men carry around these unspoken scenarios, often born from curiosity, imagination, or things they've seen but never experienced. And many of these fantasies are tied directly to positions that almost never make it into reality. It's not that these positions are impossible or too outrageous, but rather that women often shy away from them, assuming they're unnecessary or fearing they'll look awkward trying. Yet, for men, these fantasy-driven positions represent something much bigger than mechanics. They are about adventure, exploration, and touching a side of intimacy that goes beyond routine. The fascinating thing about fantasies is that they're not always about the physical difficulty of a move. Often, it's the symbolism behind it that drives the desire. A man might fantasize about a position where he feels completely dominated, not because he wants to give up his masculinity, but because in that moment, he gets to experience vulnerability in a way he rarely does in life. Another man might dream of a position that feels playful or daring because it taps into his craving for spontaneity. For some, it's the thrill of trying something adventurous, almost like checking off a bucket list item. What women don't always see is that these fantasies are less about perfection and more about fulfilling that deep craving for a memory that feels unforgettable. The tragedy is that so many of these fantasies stay locked away because they're never spoken about openly. Men often hesitate to share them out loud for fear of sounding too demanding or being misunderstood, and so they remain unspoken wishes, hinted at in jokes or subtle suggestions. But here's the thing: when a woman is willing to take that leap and try something he's only imagined, she's not just giving him pleasure, she's giving him the gift of feeling seen. She's saying, without words, I care about your imagination. I care about your secret desires. I want to be the one who makes them real. That kind of effort doesn't just spark excitement, it cements trust and connection. Women sometimes underestimate how powerful this can be. It's easy to think, oh, that's just his fantasy. It doesn't matter if we try it or not. But to him, it matters deeply. It's not just a physical position. It's a symbol that his partner is willing to explore, to experiment, and to meet him halfway in his inner world. That creates a sense of partnership that is rare and unforgettable. Men beg for these fantasy-driven positions because, in truth, they beg for the feeling that their deepest cravings won't always be ignored. And what's even more important is that these fantasies don't have to be intimidating. You don't need to transform into someone else or perform perfectly. You just need to show openness, the willingness to try, the courage to laugh through it if it feels awkward, the curiosity to say, let's see how this feels. That is more powerful than executing it flawlessly. Because what men remember isn't technical precision. It's the courage you showed when you dared to go there with him. When couples explore these fantasy-driven positions together, something magical happens. The relationship shifts from routine into adventure. It becomes less about checking boxes and more about creating stories. Stories that he will replay in his mind long after. Stories that become private secrets only the two of you share. That's the real value of fantasies. They bond you not just physically, but emotionally, because you've stepped together into a space that felt like a dream and turned it into reality. So when men beg for positions that women rarely try, it's not just about the position itself. It's about the fantasy that position represents. The daring, the playful, the adventurous spirit of intimacy that keeps everything alive. When you lean into that, you don't just satisfy his hidden cravings. You become the partner who gave him something unforgettable, the one who dared to take a fantasy and make it a shared memory. At the heart of all of this, beyond variety, beyond confidence, beyond surprise, and even beyond fantasy, lies something much deeper, the emotional meaning behind trying new things together. Intimacy is not just about the body, it's about what the body communicates. When you step out of routine and attempt a new position, you're not just changing the physical angle, you're sending a message. You're saying, I'm willing to explore with you, I'm willing to grow with you, and I'm willing to keep this alive. That message is powerful because it's not just about the act itself, it's about what it represents: openness, adventure, and a refusal to let things grow stagnant. Men beg for new positions not only because they want excitement, but because on a deeper level, it reassures them that their partner is invested. It reassures them that she wants to keep the spark alive, that she's not simply showing up out of obligation, but out of genuine desire. That feeling of being chosen again, of being worth the effort, is what fuels his emotional connection. When a man feels that his partner is curious, daring, and willing to experiment, he doesn't just feel satisfied physically. He feels wanted in a way that words could never fully capture. Too often, couples underestimate how quickly routine can chip away at emotional closeness. Everything becomes predictable, and while predictability is safe, it's rarely exciting. That's when boredom creeps in. Not necessarily boredom with the person, but with the script. And boredom, if left unchecked, can slowly drain the emotional intimacy from a relationship. But when you're willing to step out of that comfort zone, you keep signaling to each other that the relationship is alive, evolving, and worth putting energy into. That energy is the lifeblood of long-term passion. Think about the times in your life when you tried something new with someone you care about. Maybe it was traveling to a new place. Maybe it was taking a class together. Maybe it was just stepping into a situation neither of you had faced before. Those moments don't just create memories, they create bonds. They become anchors you look back on because they stand out against the routine of daily life. Intimacy works the same way. Every time you dare to break routine and try something different, you're creating a shared memory that carries emotional weight far beyond the moment itself. What's even more profound is how vulnerability plays into this. Trying something new means stepping into uncertainty. It means admitting you don't know exactly how it will go. And that act of vulnerability, of being willing to look a little silly, to laugh together if it doesn't work perfectly, actually strengthens trust. It shows that you're in this together, that the connection matters more than perfection. And that vulnerability, paradoxically, makes you both feel safer, closer, and more deeply connected. Men often don't know how to articulate this emotional undercurrent. They might only express it through hints, through jokes, or through silent wishes. But what they're really asking for when they beg for positions rarely tried is not just physical variety. It's emotional reassurance. They're asking for proof that their partner is willing to keep discovering them, willing to keep being adventurous with them, and willing to keep choosing intimacy over comfort. That reassurance is priceless because it tells him that the relationship is still growing, still alive, and still worth giving his all to. So yes, the positions themselves matter, but what matters even more is what they symbolize. They symbolize curiosity. They symbolize effort. They symbolize the willingness to keep love fresh rather than letting it fade into habit. And when a woman shows that willingness, she doesn't just satisfy his body, she reaches his heart. That's why the positions men beg for, but women rarely try, are not only about fantasy or thrill. They're about creating a relationship where intimacy is constantly renewed, where adventure never dies, and where both partners feel fully seen, fully desired, and fully alive.